Maya Chen had always been different from the other girls at Riverside University. While her classmates spent their evenings at parties or shopping, she could be found in the campus library, her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, surrounded by engineering textbooks that seemed to tower over her petite frame. At 19, she was 2 years younger than most of her peers, having skipped grades due to her exceptional academic abilities. The scholarship that brought her to this prestigious university was her ticket out of the small industrial town where she grew up. Her parents, who worked double shifts at the local factory, had saved every penny they could to support her education. Maya carried the weight of their sacrifices with her every day, which made her more determined than ever to succeed. But success at Riverside came with unexpected challenges. The engineering program was dominated by students from wealthy families, and Maya's second-hand clothes and serious demeanor made her an easy target for those who felt threatened by her intelligence. The worst of them was Victoria Ashford, whose family had donated millions to the university and whose name adorned one of the campus buildings. Victoria was everything Maya was not. Tall, blonde, confident, and surrounded by a group of followers who hung on her every word. She had never had to work for anything in her life, and Maya's presence in their exclusive program was a constant reminder that intelligence could not be bought. The tension had been building for months. It started with small things: Maya's textbooks mysteriously disappearing, her lab equipment being tampered with, whispered comments about her clothes and accent. Maya tried to ignore it all, focusing on her studies and reminding herself that she only had 2 more years to endure. The breaking point came during the annual engineering department retreat at Professor Harrison's estate. The weekend was supposed to be a team-building exercise, but Maya knew it would be anything but pleasant for her. The professor's mansion sat on 50 acres of pristine land, complete with manicured gardens, tennis courts, and a massive swimming pool that seemed to stretch on forever. Maya had almost declined the invitation, knowing she would be out of place among her wealthy classmates, but Professor Harrison had specifically requested her presence, mentioning that some potential scholarship sponsors would be attending. She could not afford to miss such an opportunity, despite her growing anxiety about spending an entire weekend surrounded by people who seemed to take pleasure in making her life difficult. She arrived at the estate on Friday evening, carrying a small duffel bag that contained her few weekend clothes. The mansion was already buzzing with activity as students gathered in small groups, their laughter echoing through the grand halls. Maya tried to blend into the background, but Victoria's sharp eyes found her immediately. "Oh, look, everyone," Victoria announced loudly, her voice carrying across the marble foyer. "Maya decided to join us after all. I was worried she might not have anything appropriate to wear." The comment drew snickers from Victoria's circle. But Maya held her head high and continued toward the guest room she had been assigned. She had dealt with worse than this before, and she would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. The first day passed without major incident. Maya participated in the team exercises, contributed valuable ideas during the problem-solving sessions, and even managed to impress one of the visiting sponsors with her innovative approach to a complex engineering challenge. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to hope that maybe this weekend would be different. That hope was shattered on Saturday night. The official activities had ended, and most of the professors had retired to their quarters. The students gathered around the pool area where someone had set up a sound system and dim lighting. Maya had planned to go to bed early, but Professor Harrison's assistant had asked her to stay and help with some presentation materials for the next day's session. By the time she finished, it was nearly midnight. The pool area had grown rowdy, with several students drinking alcohol they had smuggled in despite the strict prohibition. Maya tried to slip past the group unnoticed, but Victoria's voice stopped her in her tracks. "Where do you think you're going, scholarship girl?" Victoria stood near the edge of the pool, swaying slightly. Her usually perfect hair was disheveled, and her eyes held a dangerous glint that Maya had never seen before. To bed, Maya replied simply, not wanting to engage in any confrontation. I have to help set up for tomorrow's presentation. Of course you do, Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Always the perfect little student, aren't you? Always trying to prove you belong here. Maya felt the familiar burning in her chest that came whenever Victoria's cruelty hit too close to home. She turned to leave, but found her path blocked by two of Victoria's friends, their faces expressing the same malicious intent as their leader. You know what I think? Victoria continued, her voice growing louder and more slurred. I think it's time someone taught you your place. You walk around here like you own the place, but you're just charity case. A fake. The words stung more than Maya wanted to admit, but she kept her expression neutral. She had learned long ago that showing weakness only encouraged bullies to strike harder. I need to get some sleep, Maya said firmly, trying once more to push past the group. Please let me pass. But Victoria was beyond reason now, fueled by alcohol and years of resentment toward someone who had earned through merit what she had been given through privilege. What happened next would change everything, in ways none of them could have predicted. The night air was thick with tension as Maya found herself surrounded by students who had always seen her as an outsider. The peaceful weekend retreat was about to become something else entirely, and Maya's quiet strength was about to be tested in ways she had never imagined. Victoria's friends moved closer, forming a tight circle around Maya. The music continued to play, but several students had noticed the confrontation and were watching with a mixture of curiosity and concern. None of them stepped forward to help, though Maya could see uncertainty in some of their faces. You want to know what I really think about scholarship students? Victoria's words were becoming more aggressive. I think they should know their place. This university wasn't built for people like you. Maya's hands clenched at her sides, but her voice remained steady. I earned my place here just like everyone else, actually more than most. The comment was true, but it was also the wrong thing to say. Victoria's face flushed with anger, and she stepped closer to Maya, invading her personal space. The smell of alcohol was heavy on her breath. Earned it? Victoria laughed bitterly. You think copying formulas from textbooks makes you smart? Let's see how smart you really are. Without warning, Victoria grabbed the rope that had been used earlier for team-building exercises. It was still lying on a nearby table from that afternoon's activities. Her friends immediately understood her intention and moved to help, despite the nervous looks some of them exchanged. This is crazy, Victoria, one of them whispered, but Victoria was beyond listening to reason. Maya tried to back away, but she was already trapped between the group and the pool's edge. Her heart began to race as she realized the severity of her situation, but her mind remained surprisingly clear. Years of dealing with difficult circumstances had taught her to think rationally, even under pressure. Let me go, Maya said firmly, her voice cutting through the night air. This has gone far enough. But Victoria was consumed by her need to humiliate the girl who had consistently outperformed her in every class. With the help of her friends, she began wrapping the rope around Maya's wrists, binding them tightly behind her back. Maya struggled, but she was significantly smaller than the three students holding her. Stop! The voice came from across the pool area. Several students were now watching in horror, finally realizing that what was happening was not just harmless pranking, but they were too far away to help, and Victoria's determination was frightening in its intensity. Now let's see how well you swim, scholarship girl, Victoria snarled, positioning Maya at the edge of the deep end of the pool. Maybe the water will wash off some of that arrogance. Maya's mind raced as she stared down at the dark water below. The pool was at least 8 feet deep, and with her hands bound, swimming would be nearly impossible. but she refused to give Victoria the satisfaction of seeing her beg or cry. Instead, she did something that surprised everyone, including herself. She laughed. It was not the nervous giggle of someone trying to defuse a tense situation. It was a genuine, confident laugh that seemed to come from deep within her core. The sound was so unexpected and powerful that Victoria actually stepped back, momentarily confused. "You think this scares me?" Maya asked, turning to face Victoria directly. Her dark eyes held an intensity that made several students step back. "You think throwing me in a pool is going to break me?" Victoria's confidence wavered for a moment, but her pride would not let her back down now. "We'll see about that," she muttered, and with the help of her friends, she pushed Maya into the pool. Maya hit the water with a splash that seemed to echo across the entire estate. For a moment, the surface rippled and churned, and then everything went silent. The students around the pool stared in shock, suddenly realizing the magnitude of what they had done. With her hands bound, Maya could easily drown. Seconds passed like hours. Victoria's face began to pale as the reality of her actions sank in. Some students were already pulling out their phones to call for help, when suddenly Maya's head broke the surface of the water. But she was not gasping for air or struggling desperately as everyone expected. Instead, she was floating calmly on her back, having somehow managed to maneuver herself into a position where she could breathe easily despite her bound hands. Her movements were controlled and deliberate, showing a swimming skill that none of them had known she possessed. "Is that all you've got?" Maya called out, her voice carrying clearly across the water. She had somehow freed one hand from the loosely tied rope and was now treading water with an ease that bordered on the graceful. The students around the pool stood in stunned silence. This was not the reaction they had expected at all. Maya was supposed to be panicking, begging for help, humiliated and defeated. Instead, she appeared completely in control of the situation. Victoria's mouth fell open as Maya began swimming toward the shallow end with strong, confident strokes. The rope that was supposed to have rendered her helpless floated uselessly in the water behind her. It became clear that Maya was not just a competent swimmer, she was an excellent one. "How did you—" Victoria stammered, but Maya was already climbing out of the pool at the shallow end, water streaming from her clothes and hair. Maya stood at the edge of the pool, soaking wet but somehow more dignified than anyone else present. She wrung out her hair with calm efficiency and picked up the rope that had fallen from her wrists. For a long moment, she simply looked at Victoria and her friends, her expression unreadable. "My father taught me to swim before I could walk," Maya said quietly, her voice carrying in the sudden stillness. "The factory where he works has a lake nearby. Every summer he would take me there after his shifts. He said water was nothing to be afraid of if you understood it." She took a step forward, and Victoria instinctively stepped back. The power dynamic had shifted completely, and everyone present could feel it. "You wanted to humiliate me," Maya continued, her voice growing stronger. "You wanted to show everyone that I don't belong here. But all you've shown is that you're afraid of me. Afraid of someone who works harder than you, who earned their place instead of having it handed to them." The watching students began to murmur among themselves. Some looked ashamed, others impressed, but all of them were seeing Maya in a completely different light. She was no longer the quiet scholarship student who tried to blend into the background. She was someone who faced their worst fears and emerged stronger. Victoria tried to regain her composure, but the confidence was gone from her voice. "You think you're so special?" she said weakly. Maya smiled, and for the first time since arriving at the university, it was a smile without any trace of fear or uncertainty. "No," she said simply. "I just know who I am, and I know that nothing you can do to me will ever change that." The silence that followed Maya's words was broken by the sound of slow, deliberate clapping. Professor Harrison emerged from the shadows near the mansion, his face grave, but his eyes showing something that might have been respect. Behind him walked Dean Morrison, the head of the engineering department, and two security guards. "I think that's quite enough for tonight," Professor Harrison said, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "Ms. Ashford, Ms. Chen, I need to speak with both of you. Everyone else, return to your rooms immediately." Victoria's face went white as she realized that the professors had witnessed at least part of what had happened. Her friends scattered quickly, suddenly eager to distance themselves from the situation. Maya stood her ground, water still dripping from her clothes, but her posture remained confident and unashamed. As the other students hurried away, Maya could hear fragments of whispered conversations. The story of what had just happened would spread through the entire engineering program before morning, but now it would be told very differently than Victoria had intended. "Ms. Chen," Dean Morrison said gently, "are you injured? Do you need medical attention?" Maya shook her head. "I'm fine, thank you. Just wet." Professor Harrison gestured toward the mansion. "Let's continue this conversation inside where you can get dry clothes and we can discuss what happened properly." As they walked toward the house, Maya caught glimpses of students watching from windows and doorways. Word was already spreading, and she could see the curiosity and newfound respect in their faces. The quiet scholarship student who had been easy to dismiss was gone, replaced by someone who had faced adversity with a courage that had shocked everyone present. In Professor Harrison's study, Maya was given a warm towel and a university sweatshirt to change into. Victoria sat in a chair across from her, looking smaller than Maya had ever seen her. The professors asked detailed questions about what had led up to the incident, and Maya answered honestly and completely. Victoria tried to minimize what had happened, claiming it was just a harmless prank that had gotten out of hand. But the professors had seen enough to understand the truth of the situation. More importantly, other students began coming forward with stories of Victoria's previous behavior toward Maya and other scholarship students. "Ms. Ashford," Dean Morrison said finally, "what happened tonight was not a prank. It was assault, and it could have resulted in serious injury or death. The fact that Ms. Chen was able to handle herself so admirably doesn't diminish the severity of your actions." Victoria's parents were called immediately, and by morning, she was facing disciplinary action that would likely result in her suspension from the university. The family's donations and influence, which had always protected her before, seemed to carry less weight when faced with the clear evidence of her behavior. Maya, meanwhile, found herself in an entirely new position. The students who had previously ignored her now approached her with genuine respect and interest. They wanted to know about her background, her swimming skills, and most importantly, how she had remained so calm under pressure. Dr. Sarah Williams, one of the few female professors in the engineering department, sought Maya out the next morning. "I've been watching your academic progress since you arrived," she said. "You've been doing exceptional work, but last night showed something even more valuable than intelligence. You showed character." Dr. Williams offered Maya a position as a research assistant in her laboratory, working on a project that would provide valuable experience and additional financial support. It was an opportunity that typically went to graduate students, but Maya's performance had earned her special consideration. The incident also caught the attention of the visiting scholarship sponsors. Mr. Robert Chen, a successful engineer and entrepreneur who shared Maya's surname but no family relation, had been particularly impressed by what he witnessed. He approached Maya before leaving the retreat with an offer to mentor her and provide networking opportunities in the engineering field. "What I saw last night wasn't just someone who could handle a crisis," he told her. "I saw a leader. The engineering world needs more people like you." As the semester continued, Maya's life at Riverside University transformed completely. The respect she had earned through her academic performance was now coupled with a personal reputation that opened doors she had never expected. Students sought her out for study groups. Professors included her in advanced projects, and she was invited to join prestigious engineering organizations. Victoria, after serving her suspension, returned to the university a changed person. The incident had cost her more than just academic standing. It had forced her to confront the privilege and prejudice that had shaped her worldview. She made a genuine attempt to apologize to Maya, though their relationship would never be more than civil. Maya accepted the apology with the same grace she had shown that night by the pool. She had learned that holding on to anger would only weigh her down, and she was too focused on her future to be distracted by past grievances. The story of that night became something of a legend at Riverside University. Students told it to newcomers as an example of how true strength comes not from position or wealth, but from character and determination. Maya Chen became a symbol of resilience and courage that inspired other students who felt like outsiders. 2 years later, Maya graduated summa cum laude with multiple job offers from top engineering firms. At the graduation ceremony, she was selected as the student speaker, and her speech focused on the importance of facing challenges with courage and integrity. "The deepest water can't drown someone who knows how to swim," she told her fellow graduates. "And the most difficult challenges in life can't defeat someone who refuses to give up on themselves." In the audience, her parents watched with tears of pride streaming down their faces. All their sacrifices and hard work had been worth it to see their daughter not just succeed, but become the kind of person who could inspire others to be better. As Maya looked out at the sea of graduation caps, she thought back to that night by the pool, when she could have let fear and humiliation break her spirit. Instead, she had chosen to surface with strength, and that choice had changed the course of her entire life. The girl who had once been bound and thrown into dark water had emerged as a leader, proving that sometimes the greatest victories come not from avoiding challenges, but from facing them with unwavering courage and emerging stronger on the other side. Years later, when Maya had become a successful engineer and was giving talks at universities across the country, she would often be asked about that night. Her response was always the same. "The water didn't define me. How I chose to handle it did, and that choice is available to everyone, every single day."